I figure everybody else talk about the Fender thing. I might as well get in on the action. I have a point of view on this subject about the actual Stratocaster itself. The shape. How we get there. What is the shape of a Stratocaster? And how do you own it? That's a side question. But how do you actually make the shape of a Stratocaster? What is it in the first place? To me, it appears you go through the history of Martin guitars. You get yourself to the D28. And then if you look at those lines and those curves and those angles, straight line on the bottom, how the fatness comes to meet the skinniness in the middle, colors. You look at a Telecaster, they look strikingly similar. That it's not necessarily just that one vaguely inspired the other, but no, those angles, those curves, kind of match. They don't really match. Okay, so then we got a Tele. That's cool. We don't have the bass yet. Fender says, well, why don't we go ahead and make a bass? That's pretty cool. Why don't we just grow up the Telecaster to a 34-inch scale? It's 25 and a half. We'll make it 34. And we don't really have to change the size of the body. Like where the neck comes in on the body, the end of the body is going to be 1275, 13, something like that. And we'll just put the bridge way at the end. We'll make it take a Tele body, and we'll make it kind of work for this bass. And then maybe we can fatten it up to make the neck a little wider at the end and change some stuff around. Next thing you know, we got the 51P bass. But the 51P bass, it's got that long horn on the top. What's going on with that? Long horn on the top is that if you put a strap on a Tele body and then have a bass neck on it, that bass headstock is going to hit the floor the second you let go of the neck. So they lengthened the horn until such time as the strap would keep that from happening at least as bad as it does. Still kind of neck heavy on those P basses, but the tuners are really heavy. There's not much you can do about it, but at least it'll sit on the strap pretty good. So we want to make a more deluxe version of the guitar that we make. And we've gotten a lot of feedback from players, and they say they like this and they don't like that. And they wish the volume knob was closer, and they wish the curves were a little curvier because it's poking them in the ribs. And could you make it comfier? And could you make it more stable on the strap? And more this and more that. And the side jack isn't great. And fix these things and make this better. And they listened. And then Bigsby was making whammy bars for Gibson and Gretsch. And they didn't really go on Fenders, and Fender didn't have a whammy bar, so we make one of those real quick. And we'll add an extra pickup, and we'll add an extra knob. We'll make this thing really deluxe and futuristic. We'll change the headstock. We'll do all this cool stuff. We don't really have to get into the headstock design. But the body shape, right? What do we do with that? We're going to take our 51P bass shape. How we made it fat from a Tele, take a Tele, make it fat, thick it up, and that's a 51P bass when you extend the horn. Well, let's go thin that back down, shrink that back down, and see what it looks like versus a regular old Tele. The horn on the P bass is 20 inches from strap button to strap button. On the Stratocaster, it's more like 18 plus, minus, something like that. 18-ish, maybe plus. You see, they just shrunk that thing down, extended that horn up. So, is a guitar that copied off a bass, that copied off an electric guitar, that copied off an acoustic guitar. I don't know that Martin has any leg to stand on to say that the Telecasters have borrowed art from Fender, but It would be funny for them to try. Anyways, my other point on this one is I built myself a lovely Stratocaster when I was a young man who needed a guitar to go out and play because I didn't have any money. And so I said, I work at the guitar shop. I could just put together guitars with crap I got. What do we got? I had a body floating around someplace. I bought it. I got it. Didn't cost very much. It was a Strat body. I'm going to say, what am I going to use? A Tele body? Think about the guitar bodies you go out and get. I'm going to get some Les Paul body? I could, I guess. But I'd have to get like a Les Paul guitar glued together. And did I want that? Well, it seems like unless you get a really nice one, not really. I get an SG. It's got that same neck dive issue. And again, you got to buy one that's stuck together. So it's basically a Strat or a Tele or some kind of offset. I didn't want an offset, and I thought a Tele was going to be kind of like a Tele. That's cool. I didn't want to build a Tele. I wanted to build a guitar. So I just got any old random Strat body. It was nice. It was fine. It wasn't that great. It was okay. And then I found a neck that was attached to a guitar that somebody had smashed at a party one night in Brooklyn on a roof or something, and it was in the trash. I found this neck in the trash. My friends found the neck in the trash, and they brought it into their apartment. Hung it on the wall for a year, and then when they were going to move out, I said, hey, you need that neck? They said, nope. I said, I'm going to take that neck, make a guitar out of it. So I took the neck. I found a 59 humbucker somewhere, one of them Seymour Duncan jams, and volume knob. I got like a bridge from someplace and some tuners somebody took off a different guitar to put on better tuners. I got a nut, and I am a luthier of some variety. I did a little bit of luthiering, and made myself a beautiful guitar to blow up my Marshall with. Sounded awesome. Killed. My one knob wonder. It was the cheapest professional guitar you could possibly make. It cost me almost no money. It was a little bit of time and effort, but it wasn't even that much time and effort. The Strat body isn't necessary for that. It's just sort of what else would you use? So now I make my own guitars. I design my own body shapes. I became a guitar designer, which is a very strange job to have because who pays you for that? But I moved on from the Stratocaster Shape because I thought it was kind of awesome and fine, but there was problems I had with it that it had neck dive as well, and it's okay in places and ways, but everybody has one. They're so generic, and who cares? I decided maybe it'd be time to have something I'd like to have better. And we started thinking about it. I said I design whatever guitars I design, and they're cool. But as for the Stratocaster, I don't know. It is what it is. It's a cool thing. And in some ways, it is the guitar I spent my whole life thinking about. But in other ways, it's just a miniature bass. Anyways, that's my 2 cents. Thanks.